Hi, everybody. Welcome to CoreLight's Spiritual Weather Report. It's February 26, 2023, and this is Brad, and I'm calling in today from Blighter River Canyon, South Africa, one of my happy places. So, hope you're tuning in enough that you can feel the beautiful, beautiful, wild energy that I'm sending from here. It's such a special place. I know many of you on these calls have been here before. You've joined us. And so I hope you especially can tune in, but everybody, I hope you can feel the African energy. So I want to welcome everybody who's new to CoreLight, and also welcome to all of our old friends as well. And for those who are new, every month I tune in on what's happening in the collective consciousness, and I'm always shown a few themes to talk about on these calls. So this month, the themes are, what is the wave of positive energy sweeping the planet? Number 2, a time for letting go of old forms. Number 3, how do we stay on our surfboards? Number 4, how do we manifest the new paradigm of the heart? Number 5, love and truth are the most powerful forces in the universe. And the last one, transcending victim-tyrant consciousness. So for anybody who's new to the calls, I start by offering a guided meditation, and then I'll speak about the prevailing energies that are affecting us, and also about the spiritual principles that are most helpful for us right now. And then we have time for questions and answers at the end. And we always close with a brief prayer or guided meditation or whatever we have time for. And if you need to leave before the call ends, you can always listen to the recording later. We do send out the link to our email list, and it's also posted on YouTube. It's also on our free resources page on the CoreLight website at corelight.org. Okay, before we start our meditation, I have to tell you, I'm bursting to tell you, actually. I'm very, very excited about this. The Spiritual Warrior Training course is now live. It just went live a few hours ago. If you want to check it out, we haven't announced it by email yet, so you all are the first to hear about this, and you can see it. It's at corelight.org/spiritual-warrior, all lowercase. After the org, spiritual-warrior. So it's been a long time coming, as most of you know. I've been promising this course for, I think it's been a couple of years now. So my apologies that it took so long, but it is ready. It is live. I'm not I'm not teasing. So anyway, if you're interested in joining us, the dates are March 17th through April 21st. So it starts in about 3 weeks, and it goes for 6 weeks. It's 5 sessions, and there are 4 live Zoom calls during that time. But if you can't make the dates work, you can still join the course, because the recordings of the live Zoom calls get posted on the site within 24 hours, and all of the audios and the PDFs that are part of the course are downloadable. They're yours to download, and you can keep them forever. And also the course remains online until the middle of June. So even if you need to start late, or if you get behind, there's still time to finish the course. There's actually plenty of time. So I also just wanted to mention, I know many of you have already taken the course. We've been offering this course for 30 years. It was the first course that Leslie ever taught. So if that's you and you still would like to join, we're going to offer a significant discount to all of you who've been on the course before. So we'll be sending out an email to everybody about that sometime this week. And we'd love to have you if you want to join us again, if you've been in the course, if you're interested. And if you're new, we'd love to have you as well. It's for everybody. It's for beginners, advanced, intermediate, anybody. There's something for everybody in this course. We've also added some new features to the course, just if you've taken it before, just so you know. We've been working on editing Leslie's audios and the transcripts of the course. clean them up a bit. And we've also added a few videos to the course that includes archival footage of Leslie that's never been seen before, most of it. Some of it's rarely seen. The other thing is there's an online community forum. And I know that's something that a lot of people have asked for. You know, we all miss the opportunity to connect with each other. So that was a really nice feature of this learning management system, this online platform that we purchased. So we especially wanted this one because it has that option of the community forum. So I think that'll be fun for everybody. I know it will be for me. Anyway, we've also updated our main courses page at CoreLight.org, and we've added a new video there that includes some beautiful archival video footage of Leslie. So if you want to see that, it's at CoreLight.org/courses, and again, all lowercase courses after the .org. Lastly, we hired a new registrar for CoreLight's courses. CoreLight has a new employee, and her name is Jackie. And I'm absolutely delighted. She's a lovely, lovely person, very new to CoreLight. And so let's all welcome Jackie to CoreLight. And you'll get to meet her if you're part of the course. So, one last thing. We're not going to have a spiritual weather report in March just because we're going to be right in the middle of the spiritual warrior training course. So we'll resume the spiritual weather reports in April. All right. Without further ado, let us go ahead and start with our guided meditation. So I invite you to just get comfortable wherever you are. Relax, get in a comfortable position, close your eyes, except, of course, if you're driving, and just relax. Take some long, slow, deep breaths and let go. Long, slow, deep breaths. This deeply relaxes the body. There's a physiological response to the long, slow breathing. It activates the vagus nerve, as most people know. Such a simple thing to do, and so effective and so peaceful, just to do some long, slow, deep breathing. As you breathe, listen to the sound of my voice. I'll just talk a little bit about how this works in case you're new. I know most of you probably know this, but at some level of her being, Leslie is overlighting these calls, and there's a transmission of healing energy that comes through from another level. So we invite you to be meditative throughout the call and receive the transmission even while we're talking. And this is actually the main thing about the call, is this energetic experience. And it doesn't matter if you're live with us today or you're listening to the recording sometime in the future. It doesn't matter. We're all part of a field, and we're all connected. And time and space don't really exist at this level. So I invite you, as you breathe deeply and relax and let go, to just tune in to these other levels of reality, beyond time and space, where we're all connected in the unity and in love. So we all receive this transmission of light that comes through during the call. Whether you feel it or not, it doesn't matter. It's still happening. So you can just relax and not worry about whether you're doing something right. There's nothing to do, or wrong. There's nothing wrong you could do. Just relax as much as you possibly can. And just know that whether you're conscious of it or not, there's a field that we're all participating in. We generate the field together. It's a field of love. And again, there's no time and space involved here, so whether you're with us live or not, it doesn't matter. So I invite you to just continue the breathing, and we'll begin with a muscular relaxation, as we always do, from head to toes. And I invite you to feel and visualize a warm liquid pouring over the top of your head, something like honey that relaxes all of the muscles that it touches. So just feel and visualize this warm honey pouring over your scalp, relaxing your scalp and pouring down over your forehead, relaxing your forehead and pouring over your eyebrows, relaxing the eyes and the temples, all the way down the ears, the nose, the cheeks, the mouth, pouring down over your jaw, encompassing your whole head. And just focusing for a moment, especially on the eyes. The eyes are a place where we tend to hold extra tension. So just feel how all the many, many little muscles around the eyes are letting go now and relaxing completely. Relaxing your eyelids, the eyeballs. The eyes, they're relaxing so much that the eyeballs just naturally fall back into their sockets. And relaxing the back of the tongue. Let's focus there for a few moments. It's an area where, when we relax it successfully, there's a whole region of the head that relaxes, the jaw, the back of the head, the neck. And feel this warm honey now pouring down over your neck and your shoulders. And just allow, especially the shoulders, to relax. We hold a lot of tension in the shoulders, so just feel this warm honey penetrating the muscles and the tension just melting away, just like butter melts. And feeling the warm honey pouring down your arms, all the way down to the hands and the fingers, just sweeping away any tension that you might be holding on to. And let's focus for a moment on the wrists and the fingers, because that's a place where, especially nowadays with all the computer work and work we do on our devices, there's a lot of tension we hold on to there. So just feel this warmth passing through and melting all the tension in the wrists and the hands and the fingers. Remembering your deep, long, slow breathing. And let's feel this warm honey now pouring down over the torso, down the front of the chest and the back, the upper back. Pouring down over the diaphragm in the middle of the back. And let's pause here for just a moment, and let's take a few long, slow, deep breaths all the way down to the diaphragm, expanding your lungs as much as you possibly can. Feeling that diaphragm stretching just a little bit, and then releasing, letting go. Long, slow exhale, releasing all the tension that builds up in the diaphragm. And let's do a few more of those breaths where we fill up, Fill up the lungs as much as you possibly can. And then release. Feeling just a little bit of a stretch in the diaphragm. Gently, very, very gently. And one more. Long, slow, deep breath all the way down, bringing the light and the air all the way down to the bottom of the lungs, down into the diaphragm. And releasing. And let's continue to feel the warm honey pouring down the torso over the stomach, abdomen, lower back, relaxing all the organs, pouring down over the pelvis, the psoas muscles. We also hold a lot of tension in the psoas muscles, so those are the ones that run down the front of the hips on either side. So just feel the warm honey melting any tension there. Often comes from sitting too much. I know. It's kind of required these days with all the computer work we all do. If you feel blessed if that's not you. And then feel the warm honey pouring down your all down the lower part of the back, all the way down the buttocks, down to the legs, the hamstrings and the thighs, all the way down over the knees and down the shins and the calves, relaxing all of the muscles, down the ankles, feet and toes. So just feeling your whole body being swept clean of any tension. And I'll be quiet now for a few moments while you scan your body again from head to toes and just breathing light and energy into any place where you might still be holding on to some tension. And deeply, deeply releasing, letting go. And now I invite you to place your attention gently on the root chakra. If you're new to this work, that is at the base of the spine, between the anus and the genitals, at a place called the perineum. And just feel how, when you gently put your attention there, the root chakra naturally relaxes and opens. You can feel the muscles relax just by giving it some awareness. And then let's drop our grounding cord all the way down to the center of the earth. Feel your grounding cord as a connection with the center of the earth. You might visualize it as maybe a silver cord or a golden cord, beautiful string of white light, whatever you like, however you see it, doesn't matter. Just feel how grounding this exercise is. As you breathe and relax and let go, feel gravity gently pulling you towards the earth. And feel Mother Earth supporting you from beneath in the form of the floor and the chair. And just take a few moments to feel this connection with Mother Earth by putting your attention where your body touches the floor and the chair. And just be with that. surrender to it. Completely letting go. Just like a little baby in the arms of its mother. Feeling completely relaxed, surrendered, feeling very safe, very held. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. Just being right here, right now. Breathing in the light and breathing out any tension in the body. Breathing in the present moment. Breathing out any concerns about the past or the future. Just being right here, right now. Completely safe and nurtured in the arms of Mother Earth. And now let's bring the energy of the earth up through the soles of the feet, up into the body. Feel this grounding quality, this anchoring quality of the earth energy. It's a beautiful, supportive energy. And let's draw it all the way up the legs and all the way up the torso, up the core of the body. All the way up to the crown chakra. And if you're new, the crown chakra is at the top of the head. It sits on the head like a crown that a king or a queen would wear. It opens up and out like a funnel. Feel it sitting on top of your head like a 1,000-petaled lotus, opening up petal by petal. Feel how beautiful the crown chakra is. And it's okay, again, if you're new to this and you're not feeling anything, it doesn't matter. You can just set the intention that one day you would like to feel it. And you can just practice visualizing. And just know that at some level, you're benefiting by receiving the light. And so let's send a cord from the top of the head out into formless space. This cord is connected to our core. Runs down the center of the body. And just let the cord go out and connect with some form of universal energy, whatever that may be for you. Might be a spiral galaxy, or a sun, or a star, or a heavenly body of some kind, or a group of angels, or ascended masters. Just see where it goes and draw down into your body through this cord that beautiful source of universal energy and let it fill you up. Let it pour down through the crown chakra, collect it through the funnel of the crown chakra. Just feel it pouring down into your head and spilling out all over your aura, filling up your aura and your body with beautiful golden white light and love and celestial energy. Feel your body absorbing this beautiful luminous field. Feel every cell of your body like a little sponge absorbing this beautiful golden white light. Trillions of little cells absorbing the light. As you continue to fill up, and breathe and relax, I invite you to feel your body, your physical body, as the midpoint between heaven and earth. Feel how your body, that beautiful physical body of yours, precious physical body, contains both heaven and earth within it. We are the bridge, physical body, and our essence contained in the physical body is the bridge, are the bridge between heaven and earth. Just allow, there's nothing to do about this. You don't need to think about it. Just allow that awareness to sink in and just be with it. Just allow it. It's the gift we're given when we incarnate into these physical bodies. The gift of our connection with heaven and earth, spirit and matter. These beautiful bodies that allow us to dance with duality in schoolroom earth, to play with dark and light, pain and pleasure, the roller coaster of life in all its glory. Such a gift, and it also at times feels like such a challenge. And all of it, even the challenges, are such a gift. I know that's hard to remember in the moment, but it's a good reminder for all of us. So let's just sit in this beautiful, peaceful place, in this luminous energy, feeling our bodies, these precious physical bodies, as the midpoint between heaven and earth. And just allow them to fill up with light from above and light from below, earth energy, celestial energy, while I say a little prayer and an invocation for our call today. We call on Great Spirit, Divine Mother, Father God, the self that we all are. We call on all of the angels and the guides and the teachers in the invisible realms who surround us in the highest love and support. We invite you into our sacred circle today, and as well as we include those listening to this recording in the future. Please surround us all in a beautiful cocoon of golden white light and love and healing energy. guide our conversation into the highest love and the highest wisdom, and hold our hands as we walk out into the world, into our soul's highest purpose in this lifetime. And we offer thanks for this opportunity, this privilege to be together, to share our love, to share time, to be incarnate in physical bodies on this extraordinary, fragile blue planet at this most amazing time, the pivoting of the ages, the shifting of human consciousness from the age of separation into the new paradigm of the heart, where love rules, where truth and love are the most powerful forces in the universe. Thank you. And before we close this prayer for today, we ask for a special blessing to go out to all the people and all the beings in the natural world who are in pain or suffering, especially all life in Syria and Turkey where the earthquake hit. And all places on the planet where there is war or people and the earth are affected by war. That's basically everybody on the planet I know. Blessings to all who suffer in any form, from hunger, illness, trauma of any kind, loneliness, lack, material lack, spiritual lack. So we send our field of love out to encompass all beings. May all of our thoughts and our words and our actions contribute in some way, no matter how small, to the peace and the happiness of all beings. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Alalaho. Alalaho is Tibetan for amen, and it means, isn't it wonderful? I love that. Okay, well, welcome again, everybody. I'm always so happy to feel you and be with you every month when we get together like this. I know it's on the inner planes mostly. You know, we don't get to see each other anymore. Miss the days of being in the same room together, but what a gift that we have the technology that can connect us this way. And there's a feeling of release and letting go when we're together like this that I just love. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for participating in these monthly calls. So the first topic for today is the wave of positive energy that's sweeping the planet. And a lot of people are surfing that wave right now. I wonder if you are. And I know that I am. I'd really like to describe the wave as I experience it. And before I do, I think it's important to say that the way these waves work is that we all catch them at different times. And they look a bit different for each of us. It's not identical for everybody, but there are some general energies or themes that are common to everybody surfing the wave. So if you're not experiencing what I'm about to describe, it doesn't mean that you're missing the wave or that there's anything wrong. It just means that you're probably going to be surfing the wave sometime soon. And it might be a few weeks away or a few months away or even longer, but it's definitely available to all of us. Whenever you and your soul feel it's time to catch it, you catch it. So it's basically what I'm feeling is it's this wave of creative energy. It's got all kinds of qualities to it. It's got a sense of new beginnings, and that can look like many different things for different people. As I said, for example, it can relate to your job or your home situation or relationships, and that can be your relationships to other people or to yourself. It can relate to money or health or whatever it is, but there's this amazing sense of freedom about it. This is difficult to describe, to put words to this energy, so forgive me, I'm groping a little bit here, but it's a sense of freedom and a sense of play, and also there's a joy that comes with all of this. I'm feeling a sense of purpose and meaning in the wave, so that when we catch it, it's like we have some deep inner knowing that this is the time that we incarnated for. It's a time when we blossom into our soul's highest purpose, into an outpicturing of what we know we're here to do and what we came in to be and to model. And I want to say that the wave, it brings with it a potential for abundance, for new levels of abundance in our lives. And I don't just mean financial abundance. There are many forms of abundance. It can be financial, but it's also abundant friendships or love or resources or whatever it is that we need. And before I speak any more about this, pardon me, before I speak any more about it, I just want to remind you that if this isn't resonating with you at all, and I know for some people that's going to be the case, it's totally okay, because like I said, there's nothing wrong with whatever you're going through, and it might just mean that you're still in the phase of dissolution and letting go of old forms. And letting go of old forms is the precursor to catching the wave. So it's all part of it. It's all, it's not separate or different or wrong. When we go through dissolution and letting go, that can look like a lot of different things. So I just want to name a few of them because I know quite a few people who are in that part of this too. There's a sense of formlessness about it. And in fact, I spoke about the formlessness almost every month last year in 2022. So that formlessness has been around for a very long time. But for many people, if you're catching the wave, you're feeling yourself coming out of that formlessness. So it's about learning to be more comfortable with the unknown and the formlessness. So it can feel like if you're in this place before you catch the wave, it's like you're between two worlds. And like I said, I know a lot of people in that stage right now. They feel like they're in between two worlds. And that can feel very confusing and very discombobulating. It's a time when the world that used to be familiar to us starts slipping away. And that can be our old relationships or an old way of working or being in the world. And the familiar things that you used to hold on to and identify with are dissolving and they're transforming into something completely different. So with that, you might be experiencing loss and grief, or You might be feeling a kind of stuckness or a stagnant energy, like you're trying to push a river. I know I went through that for quite a few months last year. And if you're in that phase, it's important to remember that it's just a phase and it's going to pass. This too shall pass. But it's necessary. It's an absolutely necessary phase that we need to go through, because we have to let go of the old before we can bring in the new. And it's like that old saying that when one door closes, another one opens. And I know that's trite, it's an old trite saying, but it's true. It's very accurate for our times, especially right now. So we're truly letting go of these old forms so that we can make way for the new forms to birth. So take heart if you're still in the grief and loss. I know how hard it is if you're in that letting go phase, or if you're just feeling a little stuck and stagnant, or if you're feeling confused or discombobulated and the old ways that you were familiar with are changing. Just keep doing all of the very important spiritual practices that you know how to do. I would say especially practicing witnessing and surrendering. Those are the keys, the big broad brushstroke things. I know some people who are going through some of the most major challenges, and the dissolutions are bigger than ever in their lives right now. Huge changes. A big letting go of old forms. Sometimes it's some kind of significant trauma or an illness or major shift of some kind, whether it's happening to you or a loved one, or whatever it looks like. Either way, it's something that affects you significantly. All right, I think I'd like to go back to talking about the wave now. If you resonated with my description of the wave, whether it's just a little bit or a lot, I'm aware that there are differing degrees of it for different people. So you might be feeling just some small stirrings of a creative energy, or even just a vague sense of something new coming in your life, whether it's your job or your finances or, relationships or whatever area of life it might be. It might be very nascent. It might be very tenuous right now. But if that's you, you can benefit right now, especially from spending a little bit of time focusing on that feeling, that little nascent feeling inside you, and engaging the energy in some way. So, for example, you might spend some extra time in meditation and ask to be shown more of what that energy is about for you. You might try journaling about it and putting down in words what you're feeling, even if it's vague. When you start with that writing, it always helps to bring the energy from the realm of formlessness and ideas down into form. And it helps us to manifest in our lives in a quicker, easier way. When you write, you engage that process in a more direct way. And you become more conscious when you write about it. So it's super helpful to do writing exercises right now. No matter where you are on that, if you're on the wave, if you're just starting to catch the wave, if you're still down, waiting for the wave, the writing is super helpful right now. I also wanted to mention my experience of doing this work for the past 30 plus years has been that Leslie she'd be the one to catch the wave first. And so I'd watch her catch it and she'd talk about it. And then I would realize that I was on it. And then we'd notice a bunch of other people catching it. And so it was sort of this, like a group of surfers catching the wave together. And like I said, it's a great metaphor, but it's just sort of like different time, different part of the wave, but there's a similar energy that we're all feeling and surfing. So I think I want to share my personal experience of this wave with you in case it's helpful. As I said, it started coming in for me a few months ago. And I think my example is pretty extreme. So my sharing this isn't meant for you to compare yourself to it or anything like that. I think I'm just in an especially intense cycle right now because I'm in my second Saturn return. So I'm experiencing this wave in a much more extreme way than most people I know. But I do know plenty of people who are starting to go through something similar right now. So again, I'm sharing this with you just in case it might be helpful to you. So in the last few months, I met some new friends, and I've mentioned it on the calls. I haven't spoken much about it, but I say they're new, but they feel like very old friends to me. And it's this group in London, this foundation in London, who we've connected, and they're bringing a whole new level of support and inspiration and enthusiasm to the work that Leslie and I've been doing for over 30 years. And it came completely out of the blue, very unexpected. And I was not actively searching for any kind of new partnership or anything like that. So it feels sort of miraculous. It feels like it was very heaven sent. There were a lot of synchronicities involved, a lot of deep energetic connections involved, and so I just felt like it was this gift, this great divine gift, and so I feel that there's this new life that's being breathed into CoreLight and into my work and into my life. And there's a new level of opportunity for creative expression that's happening. So we're starting to work on fulfilling some long-time visions that I've had to help get the CoreLight teachings out to a wider audience. So there's expansion happening and growth, and it's just clear to me that there's a whole new phase of my life and CoreLight's life that's birthing right now. And it's a very strong feeling that, like, this is the time. This is what I incarnated for. I've been preparing my whole life for this. Everything has built up to this. So there's a very strong sense of purpose and meaning. And I know that this is exactly what I came here to do. And so there's a renewed sense of excitement and inspiration and a feeling of being very aligned with this wave of creative energy, positive energy that's passing through. And like I said before, there's a very beautiful and intense feeling of freedom and playfulness and joy about the whole thing. So I share this with you because it's very clear to me that this wave of positive energy that's moving across the planet, it's so big and it's so powerful that we all have this opportunity just to be carried along by it. It's like when it's time to catch it, it's just effortless. It's so easy, and it's like life just is unfolding in front of us like a red carpet. So when it comes time for each of us to catch the wave, the only role we have is to surrender to it and to to stay on the surfboard, because it can be very intense energy. So like I said earlier, I know it's not time for some people to be surfing the wave yet, because I know a lot of us are still in the preparation phase. We're getting ready to catch it. And that's the group who are still going through the dissolution and the letting go phase. So if that's you, I don't want you to feel disheartened or upset or think that there's something wrong with you, like you're behind or you're not going fast enough or you're not doing it right or anything like that. None of that is ever true. There's always a divine timing to these things, and our soul knows the perfect moment for us to move out of one phase and into another. But I share this with you. I was very guided to share this today because I hope it can inspire you, so that you can feel a sense of what's coming. This is what's next for all of us when we've moved a little bit further through the dissolution and letting go process. So I know sometimes it's just helpful to have a little inspiration to hold on to. It's just like a little reminder that the dark times don't last forever. I think that's one of the ego's worst fears, that when we're in the shadow, we fear that it's permanent. It's never going to end. And I know I'm laughing, but I know when you're in it, it just feels very real and very awful, and it's no fun. But anyway, I was talking about when we catch the wave, all we need to do is stay on our surfboards. And so the question then becomes, well, how do we do that? How do we stay on our surfboards? What does that look like? So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. One of the ways I would describe it is, I would call it living a divinely inspired life. You could call it a God-inspired life if you like. I know some people have trouble with the word God, so I prefer to call it a divinely inspired life. But whatever you want to call it, when we live that divinely inspired life, it's like we're laying a foundation in our life that creates the potential for spiritual awakening. And it opens a door for extraordinary experiences to manifest in life. So it's like we live in a way that prepares a field, prepares a foundation or a field for, you could call it grace. It's for grace to come in and to create what appear to be miracles in our lives. But they're not really. They're not really miracles because, well, you could call them ordinaries, but that wouldn't make much sense to people. But it's really more about what I would call cause and effect. Pardon me. When we live a divinely inspired life and we put spirit first, we put our spiritual path first. And I'm struggling for words, excuse me. It's difficult to put this into words. But when we put spirit first, then the universe responds accordingly. And all kinds of support and resources and abundance just flow in to give us whatever we need to fulfill our soul's highest purpose. And so what is that? What does putting spirit first look like? I think that's a good question. So I think it looks a lot of different ways for different people, but I think some of the practices that are common to everybody who's living a divinely inspired life are things like, number one is witnessing, practicing witnessing. And I speak about that so often on these calls. I'm not going to explain right now what witnessing is. I'm sorry if you're new and you don't know, but if you're interested in that, there's a chapter in our book called The Marriage of Spirit about witnessing. It's also known as The Neutral Observer. And that book, The Marriage of Spirit, is available on our web store at CoreLight.org. But witnessing is probably the key, the number one practice. The other, let's say there are 4 other main practices that are part of this foundation laying. And I would, in traditional Hinduism and Buddhism, traditional ancient religions, it's known as the 4 main yogas. And yoga simply means union. People think of yoga nowadays as the hatha yoga, the posture, the yoga with the postures that are physical postures. But yoga really means union with the divine. It's a path, different paths to create union with the divine. The inner divinity, let's call it, our own inner divinity. And so the 4 main yogas, I won't give you the Sanskrit words, but it's meditation is number 1. Number 2 is selfless service. Number 3 is devotional practices. And number 4 is the yoga of the mind. And that's basically what we offer at CoreLight, is the yoga of the mind. It's about clearing the patterns and the unconscious shadow aspects that block our knowing of the divine within us. So those 4 are important. Maybe not all of them. You might be. Most people are usually drawn to one of those in particular. Most people don't do all of them, but to at least practice one of those. Some people are doing 2 or more, but to at least have one of those as one of your main spiritual practices. And then the third thing I'm looking at my list here. The third thing is practicing the principles of impeccability and energy management. And that if you've been around CoreLight for a while, you know what that is. But it's something that Leslie describes in depth in the Spiritual Warrior Training course. So if you feel drawn to take that course, that's part of what we'll be doing, is learning about what is impeccability and what is energy management. How do we manage our energy impeccably so that we can lay the foundation for our awakening? The fourth thing on my list is learning to ground. Oh, let me tell you this. If you want to go to the Spiritual Warrior Training page, like I said, it's just been launched today, and it's at corelight.org/spiritual-warrior, all lowercase. And what we did was we put in there little excerpts from the different audios that Leslie made for the course. And so you can listen to a little snippet of impeccability and a little snippet of energy management. And I'm very excited about that. We're happy to be able to offer that so people get a taste of Leslie and the course. Okay, back to where I was. So fourth thing on the list is learning to ground on our spiritual core. And again, that's part of the Spiritual Warrior Training course. So I'm not going to talk a lot about it right now, but that is... it's a very foundational practice for awakening. I find it's a way of life for me now, and I know most people who've been through the course feel the same. It's sort of essential for our times because the world is so chaotic. And when we learn to ground on our spiritual core, it doesn't matter how chaotic the world is, because the spiritual principles always hold true. So we ground on those spiritual principles, and we carry them with us always. They don't change. That's the constant in life. And the last thing on my list is living as much as we possibly can in the ascended balance states, which are also known as heart states. And we have a list of those words in the Marriage of Spirit book. I'll list a few of them. They're things like compassion, loving kindness, gratitude, generosity, integrity, truth. These are just a few of the many states. Humility is on there. But the more we can practice living in those states, the more we lay this foundation that I'm talking about. And all of these practices that I'm mentioning, these are how we live in what we call the new paradigm of the heart. And that's in our personal lives and also collectively in the wider world. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. How do we manifest the new paradigm of the heart in our lives and in the world? I know a lot of people who feel a sense of impatience, shall we say, around manifesting the new paradigm of the heart on planet Earth right now. It's like, we're ready for it now. Where is it? And, we wonder, why is this taking so effing long? I mean, it is so painful sometimes to have to live in this old 3D reality. As I know I'm singing to the choir here. We tend to think, like, do we really have to endure this nonsense for much longer? And so I really wanted to talk about this today because I know so many people feeling this. It's definitely one of the things in the collective right now. And the truth of it is that we don't have to wait. We definitely can live in the new paradigm of the heart right now. We don't have to wait for it to happen in the future sometime. We don't have to wait for other people to start living it. We don't have to wait for it to somehow start manifesting in the world around us. It starts with us. It starts with our own consciousness and in our own personal practices. And as we shift our consciousness more and more into those ascended balance states, or the heart states as we call them, and when we do those spiritual practices that I've been describing, we're living more and more in the new paradigm of the heart at our own personal level. And as that happens, we discover that the people and the experiences that we draw to us reflect back to us that consciousness that we're already living in. So as you start living more and more in heart-centered states and in states of truth and integrity, then the people who show up in your life reflect heart-centeredness and higher consciousness back to you. And eventually you realize you're actually a living, walking, breathing representative of the new paradigm of the heart. It's like you become, the words coming to me are an ambassador of love, you know. It's like you live in a foreign country. This is called the new paradigm of the heart. And you get to go out into the 3D world, into the world of separation that most people live in, and you're like this ambassador of love. And then people want to meet you. They want to know what your secret is. They can't really put it into words, you know, why they're drawn to you, but they want to learn from you. They feel inspired by you. They want to be like you. And so it's like you're a teacher just by setting an example of living a divinely inspired life and living with love and truth and impeccability and all those principles that we're talking about. And so then at some point you realize, well, you're already living in the new paradigm of the heart. And even when the whole world around you is chaotic and challenging and whatever, you know, craziness is going on, you don't get spun around by it. Other people might, but you don't. And you know how to hold your center and how to ground on your spiritual core. Because like I said, no matter how crazy the world gets, the spiritual principles always hold true. So the world can be experiencing a lot of shadow, but because you know how to work with the shadow and you know how to navigate those passages, you're not taken out by the shadow. It's like it's part of your surfing experience. You literally ride those waves. And so that's your north. Your commitment is to live a divinely inspired life. And it's that commitment that helps you to stay on your surfboard. And it lays the foundation for you to manifest extraordinary experiences in your life and to draw beautiful, heart-centered souls into your life. And life becomes very uplifting and inspiring and joyful. And that's no matter what's happening in the world around you, you have that. And so you literally live in the new paradigm of the heart no matter what's going on in the world. And you're sharing it with other people, at least with whoever's open enough to receive it. And so collectively, as more and more of us live in that state of heart-centeredness and spiritual awakening, the new paradigm of the heart is birthing all around us. And you can see the signs of it if you know what to look for. You won't find it in the mainstream media, by the way, generally speaking. most of the mainstream media is about pumping out fear and separation nowadays. So in fact, that's a good segue. I wanted to talk a little bit today about truth. So let's shift gears. Let's talk about that. So truth is one of the hallmarks of the new paradigm of the heart. And I'm talking about truth with a capital T, not truth with a small t, which is relative truth. When you hear the word truth in the 3D world context, it's normally how it's used in our world. It's relative. And people in the 3D, in that consciousness of the third dimension, they take so-called facts, right, and they use them to form opinions, form judgments, and that becomes their truth. And it's what they call truth. But it's not truth with a capital T. It's relative truth. So truth with a small t is relative truth or 3D truth, whatever you want to call it. And it's about trying to be right, usually, and trying to make others wrong sometimes. And it's about justifying our opinions and our beliefs. And it's used to separate and divide. It's especially used that way by the media and by governments of the world. And it can be used to manipulate and confuse people. And in fact, that's happening so much nowadays. But the truth is, that's been happening for millennia. I don't know that it's that new. And I just want to be clear. I'm not talking about political parties. I'm not talking about any one particular leader. I'm not taking any sides. I just want to be really clear about it. That it's such a sensitive topic. I'm just painting a very, very broad brushstroke picture about the state of the third dimensional world right now. There's just a massive amount of manipulation going on, like it always has. But it just, I don't know, it seems to be on steroids right now. So, like I've spoken about on these calls before, everybody on the planet seems to have formed their own opinion about what's happening in the world. And it's based on their version of the truth. And much of that is, it's based on whatever media somebody prefers or whatever they happen to be taking in. So there's this one set of facts, but there are these myriad polarized opposite beliefs based on how the facts are spun. So for 7 or 8 billion people on the planet, there are 7 or 8 billion different truths. and everybody's right. Have you noticed that? Very rarely can you change somebody's mind these days because everybody's basing their own opinions and conclusions on the so-called facts. And, everybody's right. It's a very interesting situation we're in. And I think it's important to say there's so much emotion involved in the beliefs and the judgments and the opinions that people are forming. And because it's about everybody wanting to hold on to what they understand as their reality. So it's literally one's reality that's at stake. And that's huge. That's a very big deal, to have your entire reality be at stake. And when something's emotional for a person, there's no convincing them of anything different with logic or reason. I'm sure you must have noticed the truth of that. When somebody's in an emotional state, you cannot use logic or reason or factual arguments with them. It just doesn't work. And I think that's where we are right now in our world. There's more and more truth starting to come out. Some people are starting to recognize it and change their minds about things. But it's slow. It's a very slow process because even when we're confronted with, lots of data and lots of facts, if somebody's in an emotional reaction to it, especially if it's threatening their reality, the very foundation on which they they stand, then they're not going to let it in. But it's slowly happening, and the truth is being revealed, and more people are waking up. And I think it's also worth mentioning now that it takes a very spiritually mature person to be open enough and receptive enough to allow their mind to make a shift. You have to be confident enough in your sense of yourself as a person and in your own ability for discernment that you can listen to other people. You can allow them to share their thoughts and beliefs, and you don't feel threatened by that. You can entertain alternative ideas because you know you're okay, and even if it might mean that you need to shift your consciousness, you're still okay, and you're not so rigidly fixed on maintaining the status quo and being so attached to your own beliefs no matter what that you're not open to change. So you're okay to change your mind if your own discernment tells you that that's what's right to do. So a lot of this is about change. It's about how we handle change. And life on planet Earth is all about change. And our soul's evolution is dependent on how we cope with change. So as we mature spiritually, we become more open to change. And that's how we evolve in consciousness. So we're in this time when keeping an open mind is super important. It's a really good time not to just reject things out of hand, maybe because we've been told by an authority figure of some kind what we should believe. Independent thinking is really critical right now. Being open to new ideas, being open to changing our minds, very important. It's a spiritual practice. So we talk a lot on these calls about practicing neither believing nor disbelieving. I think it's been a little while since I've talked about that, so it's probably a good time for a reminder. It's just such a great practice for our times. There's nothing wrong with hearing all kinds of different opinions, just taking it all in, but not attaching to any one side, just allowing for all of it to just be, just letting it be inside you and not reacting and not judging and not forming an opinion. And eventually, your own discernment kicks in, and that's the key. It's practicing the discernment. That's a very spiritual practice. But first, it begins with practicing neither believing nor disbelieving, and just allowing and just keeping that open mind. So I wanted to talk about truth with a capital T a little bit as well. The truth with a capital T is very different from relative truth with the small t. It's what some people call absolute truth. And absolute truth goes way beyond the apparent facts, the so-called facts of this world, which can be twisted and spun into all different kinds of relative truth and can be used to manipulate and control. So absolute truth is really about the ultimate reality of our world. And that's that the 3D physical world is much more like a hologram than it is solid or dense matter. I think we all probably know that quantum physics is finally catching up with the spiritual teachings of the enlightened masters who've been speaking about this for ages and ages. Quantum physics is discovering that what appears to us as solid matter is actually 99%, 99.999% space. And you wonder, how can that be? Our 3D minds just cannot comprehend that. But the sages and the enlightened masters throughout time have talked about this. they've always said that the reality of our third dimensional world is an illusion. They've always said what's real and what's permanent is absolute truth. And that is that we're not these bodies. We're not these personalities. We're not our thoughts. We're not our emotions. We're pure awareness. We're pure light, pure energy, pure consciousness. And in fact, we're made of an energy that can only be described as love. And that's the truth with the capital T. We're love. We are love. And so those are the most powerful forces in the universe. Love and truth. And we're in this process of waking up to this fact and to discovering the truth of who we really are. And it's happening to more and more people. And as we do this, we discover how immensely powerful the forces of love and truth are. So much more powerful than any kind of third dimensional power. So much more powerful than anybody's ability to manipulate or dominate or control. And so this is a really big aspect of the giant wave that we're all being invited to surf right now. It's a wave of truth and love, and it's sweeping the planet, and it's like a tsunami, and it's going with all of us who committed as souls to come in and be the pioneers and be the midwives of this new paradigm of the heart. And it's going against everybody else. It's going against anyone standing in the way of that. There's just no stopping it. Anybody trying to go against that wave is going to be swept away. I mean, it might not look like it, but that's what's happening energetically. If anybody can see at those energetic levels, you see that that's what's going on. Even though it may not look that way, it may not be presented that way to us in the media or in in what we're told. Anyway, I just know it doesn't look that way sometimes. So we're being invited to believe that all is lost. We're we're being invited to believe that everything is hopeless and it's a bleak future and we're doomed. But that is not the whole truth. It's a very, very partial truth with a small t. It may be true that we're facing some big challenges, and we may be going through some hard times. But there's a perfection to this. And it's about the old system needing to crumble and fall apart because it's not in alignment with this new paradigm of the heart that's birthing. It's about shining the light on the shadow right now. We're all getting to see the shadow side of human consciousness in great detail. Some of the worst aspects, the darkest aspects of human consciousness are being revealed. And so that's an important part of our awakening. We're making the shadow side or the unconscious conscious. And then when we do that, then we can do the work of transmuting it. But we have to be able to see it and name it first. So I think it's really important to remember this, especially right now when the forces of separation, we call them, are inviting us into fear and into division. We get to practice witnessing all the shadow aspects and remember who we truly are. And we get to remember that we're surfing this giant wave of love and light right now, and it's going with us, and it's here for us. I think it's also really important to remember that we're not victims. We're in this process of clearing victim consciousness as a collective, and that's the number one process on the planet. Like I always say on these calls, humanity's in this process of transcending victim-tyrant consciousness. So it's important to remember that the definition of victim consciousness is when we feel life is being done to us, not for us. And another way to say that is that victim consciousness is when we think in terms of poor me instead of for me. I like those little aphorisms. They always help, create a reframe quickly. So I invite you to hold on to those as you need to. And the truth with the capital T is that life is always being done for us, never to us. There's always a gift and an opportunity in every challenge. So this is a really important reframe that Spirit is inviting us to remember right now. And the ultimate truth, or absolute truth, whatever you want to call it, is that this holographic reality that we're living in is a great schoolroom to help us learn this particularly challenging lesson about transcending victim consciousness and moving into the new paradigm of the heart. And I just remembering to say, I taught a course on this a few years ago. It was called The New Paradigm of the Heart, Transcending Victim-Tyrant Consciousness. And we've recorded it and edited it, and we're going to be offering that recorded version on the new learning management system sometime soon, hopefully this year, so on CoreLight's courses page. So you can be on the lookout for that if this interests you. And the truth, with the capital T, is that we're at this turning of the great age. We're moving from the paradigm of separation into the paradigm of unity consciousness. Moving from the love of power into the power of love. And as souls, we all agreed to come in and to help pioneer this new consciousness. And it has not it has not been an easy ride. I remember I had a channeled reading once, and they said, "You're at the end of a very, very, very long journey." I've always remembered that because it feels so true. It's like, oh my goodness, how much longer is this roller coaster ride going to last? But I think it's important to remember the truth of that, and especially to remember that there's nothing wrong, that it's all perfect. We're able to choose moment to moment to live in the new paradigm of the heart. We can each choose connection over separation anytime. We choose love over fear, for me over poor me. We can choose to practice witnessing. We can choose to practice neither believing nor disbelieving. We can practice making the unconscious conscious, processing, shining a light on the shadow. We can practice manifesting the new paradigm of the heart in our lives and focus on building the new paradigm of the heart rather than worrying about how to fight the old system. That's one of the things, is that the old system is so busy self-destructing right now. And it's tempting to get immersed in fighting it. But it's our job as the pioneers, the pioneering souls, to open our minds, to explore new ideas, new beliefs, new ways of being in the world, and allowing this change to happen inside of us. It reminds me, that's why we chose the tagline for CoreLight that we did. The tagline is, change the world by changing yourself. And that is the greatest gift that we can give the world, our own spiritual awakening. So, okay, I feel like I've talked enough for today. Gosh, look at the time. Okay. I think we need to move on. We had some really, really wonderful questions come in. So let's move on to our question and answer session. I want to thank everybody so much for writing questions and heartfelt sharing that you send every month. I really appreciate hearing from you. It helps me a lot, actually, when you write. I love hearing from you. It's how I try to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. And in case you're new, the way this works is that you can email any questions in advance to courses@corelight.org. And if you're on the web call, you can type your questions in right now on the Q&A board, and those will be for next month's call. And it's not possible for me to answer all the questions, but I do read them all, and I do get to as many of them as I can. And if your question doesn't get answered by me, the truth is an answer always comes from somewhere. Whether it's once you ask it, it's going to come in a dream or, an insight in meditation or from a book, or somebody else will answer it for you. So the first question is from Molly. And I have to say, this is a summary of a longer message that Molly wrote. She attended the For the Love of Animals course that I taught with Anna Breitenbach a couple of years ago. And she shared about her love of animals and the pain of knowing about the abuse of animals. There's a part of her that feels like she's willing to do anything to protect animals, even to die for the cause. And then here's the question she asks. In last month's Spiritual Weather Report, you spoke about spiritual warriorship, and you referred to the Bhagavad Gita and the metaphor of Arjuna in battle. So my question is, when is it a Krishna-Arjuna call to action, and when is it martyrdom? All creatures have a right to live out their lives here. My mama bear energy is awakening, and this energy is going to need an outlet. It's a protectress energy, specifically for wildlife. Okay. Well, hi, Molly. Thank you so much for your message. I really, really appreciated hearing your update and knowing more about your journey and seeing your picture with the elephant. It was very sweet. So thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to write. And I definitely can resonate with everything that you described about struggling with watching animals get abused by humans. And I know that that's one of the hardest things about life on Earth right now, isn't it? For all of us. Very, very difficult. So I think it's important to remember that it's not always going to be this way. Number one, we're in this process of changing the paradigm. And the more we shift our own consciousness, the quicker the collective consciousness is going to shift. And then abuse of animals will be a thing of the past, and it'll be looked back on as barbaric. It'll probably be looked at as one of the most barbaric things about this paradigm of separation that we're living in. But I know that, meanwhile, here we are. We're in the here, we're in the now, it's happening, and we need to deal with it. We need to focus on this present moment. So there's a lot I could share. But your main question is about the difference between the call to action as a spiritual warrior versus when it's martyrdom. And that's a great question. So thank you for asking that. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this, because I feel it is really a critical question for our times. And I know it's a question a lot of people wrestle with. So let's see. First, I think it's important to point out that the choice that you're talking about here, the choice between spiritual warriorship and martyrdom, it's really the choice between the two paradigms. These options represent the old paradigm of separation versus the new paradigm of the heart. And it's all about the consciousness that we hold when we make our choices. So that being said, let's talk first about spiritual warriorship. We'll talk about both sides, but first about spiritual warriorship. So that's the choice to step into the new paradigm of the heart. Spiritual warrior is practicing keeping the heart open all the time, no matter what the circumstances are. And again, it's a practice. It's not like you're expected to do that. That's what the training is about, is how do we hold the heart open more and more. And especially, how do you do that in the face of things like animal abuse or, any kind of situation where there's a victim being abused by a perpetrator or a tyrant, whatever you want to call him. So again, this is a huge question, and there's a lot to say about it. In fact, I taught that whole course about it, like I mentioned earlier. It's called The New Paradigm of the Heart, Transcending Victim-Tyrant Consciousness. We're going to be offering it on the new platform, the new online platform, hopefully later this year. So be on the lookout for that if this interests you. But just in short, like that was a 6-week course, but just to be short for today, I would say that it's primarily about 3 different practices, and they're all related to each other. The first one is witnessing, maybe the most important. The second one is processing your own consciousness. Both of those things are covered in the Marriage of Spirit book that Leslie and I wrote. It's kind of the core of what we offer at CoreLight. It's about practicing witnessing. I talk about that frequently on these calls, and about processing your own consciousness, finding some method that works for you, whether it's the Marriage of Spirit or any other of the many, 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 many methods out there nowadays. You just need to find one that works for you and practice it. I especially like Marriage of Spirit because it's powerful and simple and easy and effective. So anyway, the third thing is taking some kind of action to stop the abuse. And I think most people call that practicing tough love. And tough love is where you stand up, You stand up and you say no to somebody or no to a situation, and you do it out of love. So, for example, it's especially known in the 12-step programs like Alcoholics Anonymous, as tough love is about refusing to enable somebody who has an addiction. So saying no to supporting them if it's feeding their addiction is the kindest, most loving thing you can do for that person, even though it's difficult to do. There's another example I'd like to give you. If you took the For the Love of Animals course, it's a story that Anna tells in that course, and I'm sure she won't mind if I share it with you here. It's I didn't mention we're planning to offer For the Love of Animals this year as well. We're planning to offer that again, Anna and I, and it's probably going to be in like July, August. I can't promise anything yet, but that's the thinking right now. We're hoping that will work. So I'm going to share this story with you, with everybody, even though it's part of that course, but it's so inspiring that I don't think she'll mind if I tell it. So this is a great example of tough love. So I'm going to be succinct here, but basically what happened was there was a drought in the area where Anna lived in South Africa, and there was some farms around. There was a neighboring farm that had cows who didn't have enough to eat. They were grazing in the field, but because of the drought, they'd eaten all the grass. There was nothing for them to eat. They were getting very, very skinny, and it looked to her like they were suffering tremendously and actually starving to death. So she tried contacting the farmer and saying, she was willing to help. And he blew her off, and he said, "They're not your cows. They're my cows. Don't you dare touch them. Don't you go near them." And he really took this stance of, F you, those cows are mine. And so, Anna was not going to stand by and watch those cows suffer. So she knew that it was in her heart. It was her discernment that the right thing to do was to find some way to help the cows. I think the farmer had said he kind of blew her off and said, "No, I tried to get food for them and I can't. It's not available." But she called around and she found some whatever their food was. I can't remember what it was, alfalfa or lucerne or whatever they're eating. So she found some, And she went ahead and had it delivered anyway, even though he told her not to. And so when it got delivered, she went over and she was feeding the cows by hand, and she was petting them. She could tell they needed love, so she was out in the field doing this. And the farmer saw her and was furious, and he came storming through the field out to see what she was doing, and he started berating her, just using all kinds of foul language and getting very angry and hateful towards her and abusing her verbally. And she just stayed in. She could have reacted. She could have shouted back at him and been equally as nasty, but she didn't. She stayed in her heart, and she kept feeding the cows. She just ignored him. She just kept feeding them and loving them. And she said eventually what happened was, it makes me cry to talk about this, that he changed, his heart opened, and he changed his tune, and he actually thanked her. And he said, I see that you've done the right thing, so I'm sorry, and thank you. And he gave her an apology, and she felt comfortable leaving at that point. And as she was leaving, she turned around and looked back, and she saw that the farmer was actually petting his cows, and she had the feeling that he had never done that before, that he'd never touched them, he'd never honored them as sentient beings, and he'd never shown any love or affection for them. So I find that story so extraordinarily powerful. And it makes me cry to talk about it. I'm sorry. But the reason it's so powerful is because, this is a story of Anna putting her love in action, practicing what could be called tough love. And it doesn't have to be anger. It doesn't have to be shouting. It doesn't have to be difficult. Yes, it was difficult for her to stand in her truth and face the abuse, but because she managed to keep her heart open, knowing that it was her love of the cows that was most important, she became a model. She became that ambassador of love that I talked about, that allowed the farmer's heart to open and for him to go through a change, for the tyrant to change. So it was the love that prevailed, the love that created the change. So that's a great example, I think, of tough love. Sometimes it does look different than that, but it's different every time. Sometimes it can look more challenging, but I always recommend practicing nonviolence when you're taking any action with tough love. Nonviolence is very important. But the issue, I think, for most of us, if your heart's not already wide open, if you struggle with that heart being closed sometimes and getting super angry, I think the issue for most of us is how do we deal with our anger around the victim-tyrant situations? And again, that's a much bigger question. But in short, I think it's important to remember that there's nothing wrong with anger. Perfectly natural to feel anger if you see abuse happening. And Molly, it's that mama bear energy that you're describing in your message, in your question. It's that protective energy that a parent has for a child. And we see it in the animal kingdom. A mother lioness will stop at nothing to protect her cubs. She will even face her own death. So it's critical to practice witnessing the anger passing through you and to remember that you're not the anger. You are a perceiver. You are pure awareness. The anger is passing through you. So you feel, you act on it if you want to, and then you let it go. And one of the biggest issues that arises is when the anger spills over into hatred. And that's when the heart closes. When the heart closes, that's when we're operating out of the old paradigm of separation, and the actions we take from that place, let's say we incur karma. We become part of the problem, not the solution. And that can get really messy. So if you're in that place, you don't want to start practicing tough love. You don't want to do any kind of confrontation in that state. You need to go off and process yourself a little bit first before you say anything to anybody or take any action. So the old paradigm is where the heart opens and closes like a valve, right? When we receive a positive stimuli, it opens, and when we receive negative stimuli, it closes. And that's totally normal in the third dimension. Most people on the planet are living that way. And there's nothing wrong with that, It's not bad or wrong. It's just limited. And when you're an evolved soul and you've incarnated here on this beautiful little planet that's having its challenges, it's very difficult living with that patterning. This is learned egoic patterning. It's a habit. And it's so effing painful for most of us. It just does not feel good to be living that way and to be run by your egoic conditioning and your habits and that heart acting like a valve, So this is the journey. This is the journey of awakening. It's the journey of living with a permanently opened heart. It is possible to get there. We're going to go into that more in the Spiritual Warrior Training course. We also go into it more in the Marriage of Spirit book. And I plan to offer a Marriage of Spirit course sometime this year as well, hopefully. So I want to also talk about the other choice that you asked about, Molly, and that is about martyrdom. The martyrdom would be the old paradigm choice. And it's an understandable place to be. I know a lot of people who feel so strongly about a cause that they're willing to sacrifice anything, even their lives, or sacrifice something in some way for the cause. And there's a certain kind of nobility about that. And, it would be done out of love. But that's part of the old win-lose paradigm, right? Because the cause wins, but you lose. And the new paradigm of the heart is always about win-win. So it has to include you. So any kind of self-sacrifice or burden-bearing, anything like that is always part of a win-lose equation, which is old paradigm. So what is the martyr, really? Let's take a look at the martyr. Let me ask you, all of you, how would you define the martyr? How would you define the martyr? What I would say is a martyr is a savior who at the same time is also a victim. And I think that's such an important thing to recognize because, this is for most spiritual people, especially animal lovers, parents, mothers, especially people on a spiritual path, the hook is often the savior persona or the martyr persona. So let me just say it again. A martyr is a savior who at the same time is also a victim. And those three personas or archetypes, whatever you want to call them, the martyr, the savior, and the victim, they're all part of the old paradigm. And it's not within the scope of our call today to go deeply into this, but I did go into it in the September Spiritual Weather Report last year, so a few months ago. If it's a subject that interests you and you weren't on that call in September, you might want to go check it out. It's on YouTube, but it's also on our CoreLight's free resources page, CoreLight.org, and then look for free resources, and you'll find the monthly calls on there. You can go to September of 2022. And I talked about it in the main talk as well as extensively in the question and answer time. So if this topic interests you, since we don't have time to, elaborate on it a lot today, you might go check that one out. And again, the course that I keep telling you about, that'll hopefully be offered this year too, New Paradigm of the Heart course. Okay, so again, this is all about what consciousness we hold when we're putting our love into action. And it's important to practice witnessing and to process any places in us that would be acting out of any of those archetypes. So there's one thing that I can share with you about it for now, and that is that the martyr and the savior personas measure life through their level of suffering and self-sacrifice. But the spiritual warrior, which is the persona that's replacing the martyr or the savior, spiritual warrior measures life through their level of joy. It's a big difference. So it's not that you never sacrifice, because we all have to make sacrifices in life, especially if you're a parent, you often have to sacrifice. But if you do sacrifice, you give with joy. So if you're in a position of caring for others, maybe not even as a parent, but if you're just an empathic friend who gives to others, or if you're a boss and you've got employees, or you're caring for an elderly person, or you care for animals, or whatever kind of position of service you might be in, this is a really important key to remember. So I'm going to say it again. The martyr or the savior measures life through their level of suffering and self-sacrifice. But the spiritual warrior measures life through their level of joy. So if you find yourself doing some kind of martyrdom or self-sacrificing, it's important to remind yourself it needs to be done consciously, and it needs to be done with joy. Okay, so very last, before we close on the subject, there's a story that I wanted to share with you, Molly, because I think you'll find it helpful. You're talking about your mama bear energy, and it reminds me of the story of the ancient Egyptian goddess Sekhmet, who has the head of a lioness and the body of a woman. And I wonder if you know her. Do you know about Sekhmet? Do you know her story? For anybody who doesn't, I'm going to share it. She is one of the goddesses, Sekhmet, in the pantheon of the ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses. They're known as the Neteru, or the Netters. And that's where we get our word nature from, Neteru. The Netters are forces of nature, essentially. And the story of Sekhmet is that it was a time on Earth long ago when the world was run rampant with evil. And people didn't know what to do. So they talked to the gods and prayed and asked for help. And the gods decided that they should send in Sekhmet to help, because Sekhmet practices fierce love. And so Sekhmet came into Earth at that time to devour evil. So she ran all over the earth, slaughtering all the people with impure hearts and the evildoers, and the blood ran in the streets. And she became so bloodthirsty. She became so overzealous with her work that she started killing more than she needed to. And she was just going wild with her rampage of killing. And so the gods realized that they needed to do something, and they hatched a plan, and they put out some beer for her that they dyed red with pomegranates. And they thought she would think it was blood, and she would drink it up and get drunk, and they could stop her. So that's what happened. They put that out. They put the beer out, dyed red, and she drank it, and she got very drunk, and she passed out. When she awoke, she turned into Hathor. And Hathor is the goddess of song and dance and celebration and joy. And so I think that it's a very important story for our times, because she represents that force of nature that we're talking about today. It's the tough love. It's the fierce feminine energy. And it's a very important energy. And it's the Egyptian stories of their gods and goddesses are all about alchemy. So we see that energy, that force of nature known as represented by Sekhmet, we see that it turns into joy eventually. It's like we're seeing the connection between the fierce love and the joy. And I just love that story. It's so apropos for our times. Leslie actually painted Sekhmet. And if you've never seen her, I invite you to go to our Sacred Art Gallery on the CoreLight's site. You just look at the menu for Sacred Art, and you can see Leslie's painting of Sekhmet. The painting hung over my right shoulder for a few decades. And so she's one of my guides. She's one of my protectors. And as I said, she represents fierce love. Carl Jung called that energy the solar feminine energy. You may have heard of that. It's a very powerful feminine energy. It's very needed in the world right now, and it is on the rise. It's that protectress energy, like you described your mama bear, Molly. So you're on the right track to be feeling that, and I encourage you to explore it, to nurture that, to express it when you feel ready to, when your consciousness is clear enough. And you just be sure to practice the witnessing and to process yourself as much as you possibly can so that your consciousness is clear when you put your love into action. And that's when you have the greatest chance of success. All right. That's a very long answer. I hope it's helpful. And thank you again, Molly. I really appreciate your question. Very apropos. Next question is from Maria. She says, I'm currently reading Returning to Oneness. Regarding the fifth key, and that's the one that opens the lock between the second and third chakra, which is, the key is view the ego impersonally. So at the beginning of page 74, there's a statement. If the weak are willing to own their power, then equality begins to grow inside them. If the weak are willing to own their power, then equality begins to grow inside them. What does that look like in life? Relationships, jobs, in seeking justice? When love is the focus. I know it's not an either-or situation. How do we embrace our power from a place of love? So thank you, Maria. It's a great question. I think to answer your question, I need to read that passage so people have a context for it. And I know it means we're going to go over by a few minutes, but I'm just going to do it anyway. So I apologize. If you need to go, it's totally fine. You can come back and listen to the recording. So the section in Returning to Oneness, the book that Leslie and I wrote a while ago, it's called The Gender Bias. Any discussion about the third chakra power consciousness must address the disparity of power between men and women, for it's here that the gender gap is at its most extreme. While the genders may simply be aspects of the two sides of the androgynous soul consciousness, it's only in the third dimension that the masculine/yang and the feminine/yin energies materialize into a huge gender bias between men and women. Dominance, or power over others, is the most significant feature of the third dimension. Its most common manifestation is the way it has gradually been structured so that men function from a superior position to wield power over women. While there are healthy signs of change in the Western world, globally there is little significant movement towards real equality. Equality is not likely to manifest in the third dimension. It's the state we'll see manifesting when we choose to move into the fourth dimension. In third dimensional consciousness, the polarities of better, worse, and superior, inferior are defined in all areas of life. Race, religion, nationality, skin color, sexual orientation, financial abundance, education, class, and so forth. This is just how we are when power is involved. We take diversity and stratify it. This is power and powerlessness. The roles of power and powerlessness played out between men and women at the surface of life are not what they appear to be. It's our soul that plays both sides of every polarity, both the powerful and the powerless. Below the surface is a soul drama played out between both of the gender essences contained in one soul. The characteristic of the us and them consciousness found in this world is that we perceive separation and do not acknowledge that we are playing both roles. As we begin to own that we are both the dominator/perpetrator and the loser/victim, we're able to integrate all the many schisms between the masculine and the feminine. This principle of one soul playing both sides is also applicable in the case of racism and all diverse aspects of society shrouded in prejudice. Those that feel powerless are protecting their power outside. Let me read that again. Those that feel powerless are projecting their power outside themselves, giving it away. Women give it to their men. Victims give it to their tyrants. And the weak and passive give it to the aggressive and the assertive. It is necessary for the one who feels powerless to take back his or her power to develop his or her own inner power again. The perpetrators of this world are using the projected and abdicated power of the weak to dominate. If the weak are willing to own their power, then equality begins to grow inside them. So thank you, Maria, for your question and for bringing this out. I feel like it's a really important question, and isn't it interesting that this question came right after Molly's question? I did not plan it that way, but it's the perfect follow-up to what we were just discussing. So as an example of what we're talking about here, Molly is putting her love into action in some way that would be a way of taking her own power back. But just to add a very important caution here, as I said before, when you take action, you first want to process your consciousness and you want to clear as much of that victim, tyrant, savior energy as you can so that you act from a place of witnessing and that you've got some clarity and you're acting from love. And I think that Anna's example of the cows that I mentioned earlier, she was so clear in her consciousness that a dramatic confrontation wasn't necessary. There was no violence or aggression. She just acted from a place of love, and that transformed the entire situation, including the consciousness of the farmer. So anyway, to answer your question, Maria, what does this look like in life when love is the focus? And how do we embrace power from a place of love? And I would say it looks different for every person, but the common theme through all of it is that we live in the qualities of the heart. We act from that place of the heart. And I mentioned some of those qualities earlier today. There are the states like compassion, loving kindness, generosity, humility, gratitude, integrity, truth with the capital T, and so on. When we act from that place, that's true power. And that's what Anna's example so beautifully demonstrates. It was true power. It was the most powerful thing. So like I said before, the most powerful forces in the universe are love and truth. And acting from that place might look like tough love. It might look very gentle and kind. It might mean saying no to something that you discern is not in alignment with your principles of truth and the heart. People who learn to act consistently from that place of love and truth, they often become great examples for other people. And I'm thinking of many of the world's greatest leaders, our most revered leaders. I think of people like Nelson Mandela, for example, or Gandhi, or Mother Teresa, or Malala, the young Pakistani woman. the human rights activist who faced off against the Taliban, to stand up for women's rights. Amazing examples these people are, because they live those qualities of the heart. They stand in tough love and qualities of the heart. And so they become these great examples for the whole world. They become world famous for that. That shows you how much power the heart has. So much more than domination and control and manipulation. But I think for most people, it's just a very simple, very humble practice of processing our own consciousness, and as we do those simple practices, as we reconcile opposites within us, and as we make the unconscious conscious, we heal, we become whole, and then we're able to live more and more in the heart and in the witness. And so, like I said, that's the most powerful thing we can do in life. Because living in love and truth and in the witness state, it's really, that's our spiritual awakening. And that's the greatest gift. It's the most powerful gift. There's the word powerful again. It's the most powerful gift that we can give the world. It's true power. Power of love and truth. So I hope that's helpful, and we have run out of time for today. So Maria, thank you again for your question. Thank you everybody for writing questions. I'm sorry I didn't get to more, but I just would like to close with a very brief prayer. So if you have another minute or two, I invite you to just close your eyes and take a few long, slow, deep breaths. Just letting go, just relaxing. We call on all of the guides who have been surrounding us today in love and support, and the light, guiding our conversation today. And we offer our deep gratitude for the gift of the love and the light that we share, that we receive, and that we can give. We give thanks for being incarnate in these bodies at a time, and we can share our love, and we can learn to know that we're made of love, that we are the love. So a deep bow of gratitude to Spirit, to the universe, and to Mother Gaia for allowing this opportunity to be here in Schoolroom Earth at this changing of the age, to wake up to love and truth and to our own power, our true power, the truth of who we are. So let's take a moment now. We send our blessings to the whole earth, the whole of the natural world, Gaia herself. We ask that all of our thoughts and our words and our actions may benefit all life, may contribute in some way, even if it's very small, to the happiness and upliftment of all beings. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And so it is. Alalaho. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful? Oh my goodness. Well, thank you everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. As I said, I love being with you. I love being in this beautiful field of love. I feel so uplifted in sharing this field of love with you. Just a quick reminder, there won't be a spiritual weather report next month in March because we'll be running the Spiritual Warrior Training Course. And if you missed the announcement in the beginning, you can find out about that at CoreLight.org/spiritual-warrior, all lowercase. And I invite you to go see our beautiful new website that I'm so excited about. And I hope you are guided by your love in your search for truth to come and join us for the course. So thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you in April for another weather report. Meanwhile, I just send you so much love. Thanks again for showing up. Until next time, bye for now.